This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and we're here in Grassroots Medicinal, and I'm joined by my good friend Chad Jackett, owner and operator of Liberty Farms, a sponsor of ours here at Press for Truth. Now, Chad, it seems that right now the Orwellian surveillance control grid is being dished out by a Trojan horse that is legalization of cannabis here in Canada. Now, I want to get your thoughts. This is the latest. This just out from Global News. New roadside test to detect marijuana coming to Canada. Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould is giving the green light to a new roadside test to check for drugs named the DrugTest 5000. The first saliva screening equipment will be used by police to test for the main psychoactive agent in cannabis. The equipment will be made available to police forces across the country, although it will be up to the police to decide what testing equipment they want to use. Manufacturers say it could be ready to use within 4 to 6 weeks, and the federal government has pledged $161 million in funding for police training and drug testing equipment over the next 5 years, as well as a public awareness campaign about the perils of driving while high. So, Chad, is this a sneaky way to violate our very rights? Because as it is right now, I mean, they can't just come up to us and take our DNA on the side of the road. They need to pass legislation in order for this to happen, and it seems that legalization is the way for them to bring in this surveillance control grid.
And leave it up to the government to use the most harmless substance on the planet to justify roadside DNA collections, right? So, they're trying to say, here, we're going to hand you this medicinal herb back to you that we've stolen over the years and demonized you all for and thrown you in prison for. We're going to hand it back to you as long as we're allowed to now take your DNA on the side of the road is one of their stipulations, right?
And how trustworthy can this machinery actually be? I mean, this is brand new equipment. Can we really trust this? And can the courts trust this? I suspect we're going to see some constitutional challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to be intoxicated from cannabis is a whole other topic. I mean, to be able to test somebody for certain levels of THC and then to actually prove them to be intoxicated is a whole other thing. Right. So they're trying to say if you're over 2 nanograms that you're not able to drive and you can potentially get charged and all these other things. Well, any medicinal user that uses on a regular basis, like if I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be probably sitting at around like 15 to 20 nanograms or more. It's just how it is. That's just fresh in the morning, waking up, having my tea, absolutely sober, stone cold sober. But I'll test for THC in my system. So this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. Again, I've said it over and over again. They're legalizing with non-medicinal recreational cannabis right now in order to confuse the language. It's actually all medicinal. And the government's going to have a hard time chasing people around and saying, well, you can't use this medicinal herb to stay off your MS and your this and that helps you get back and forth to work without crashing and having seizures and all this kind of stuff. So that would seem very silly for the government to go around doing that. So instead, they've had to turn this thing into a party drug. Now it's non-medicinal, recreational party drug, and they're trying to get everybody like myself to basically convert into a cigarette dealer. So now they want me to just sell basically a bunch of what allots to cigarettes, something that's been sprayed and radiated and really can't do anything for you. And if you're going to be intoxicated, maybe you're going to be intoxicated by some of the contaminants that they've put on it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a clever bait and switch, to bring in this rec model and to wipe out the medicinal. Are other people in the movement falling for the trickery, or are some people just going to sell out and go with the government? Or how do you see this playing out?
I see a lot of people. Again, they're constantly trying to divide everybody in this industry and just try to pull more people into their system, right? So realistically, the right thing to do is to stand behind the medical patients and stand behind the medicinal dispensaries, the medicinal growers that have been doing this for years and years and years and still want to be here for the people. In that, people are saying right now, well, they're not offering us a license for that in this new coming system. They're only saying you have to be non-medicinal and recreational. So a lot of people are jumping into this thinking that's the only option, and if you stay medicinal and try to stand with the patients, that you're now going to be susceptible to raids and all kinds of abuse from the government. So it's a threat. It's a threat to say you have to sell non-medicinal radiated crap cannabis or we're coming for you. And if you don't turn your back on the very patients that you've started and supported over the years and care about, and if you don't turn your back on them and walk away, then, well, you're going to be in prison for that. So I see that there's a lot of people out there that see this going on and they don't want to jump into this, myself being included. They're creating a monster, and when you create a monster, you know, and you jump into the rules of the monster. Now you've signed a contract with that monster. Now you're in this creation of the government instead of something that was created for all of us by God. This herb, this wonderful herb that is nobody has the right to tell me I can't use, and I have no right to tell people they can't use. And really, it's for every single person. And God gave us that right. We have the authority. It says right in the Bible. That's where we get the authority to use this. And really, we shouldn't look anywhere else. To look anywhere else is silly. Like, why do I have to ask you for permission to use this? And that's what the government's made out of, is people, right? Just a bunch of people. Oh, hey, Dan, this wonderful herb that makes me feel great and helps me sleep, maybe I should give you a call and ask you if I can use it. That seems really stupid, right? And especially when I've got permission by my creator to use this. So I think, you know, there's a lot going on here. The government is really trying to derail this whole movement that we've all, you know, stood by and created over the years. And they're trying to turn it into something that we're not going to recognize. So I think the people really need to see what's going on and be cautious. Be really cautious. You know, non-medicinal, recreational, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, in my view, and I know in yours, it's all medicinal. Whether you realize it or not, if you're using it recreational or medicinally, it's medicinal.
Here's the other thing I'd like to say. When I go for a hike, is that medicinal or is that recreational? So I'm having a good time. A lot of people would say it's recreational, but it's also really good for me, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So how do we know that medicinal and recreational aren't the same thing? But they're rewording it to recreational, right. Only recreational. Right? Yeah. But it's actually great for you. But they want to take the good part of it out, right, and spray it and radiate it. And
now back to the roadside saliva testing. We're having people who will be using this medicinally, who will have THC in their system and who are not impaired, who are completely able to drive. Yeah. Who are potentially going to be faced with, roadside DNA collection and then being arrested right then and there. Now, as I understand it, they can't, they have to, the roadside test would move to a forced blood test to which they would be able to prove you had THC in the system, but still, it's a slippery slope, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get to the point where they're taking our blood at the side of the road.
And why do they want our DNA? There's got to be something deeper going on here that they're trying to figure out with all of our DNA. And where are these samples going? What's the database? Who's collecting them? What's the greater, is there a greater purpose to collecting DNA on the side of the road? I'd like to know about that before we just, I can use cannabis, here's my DNA.
Yeah. And surely they'll say, well, if we don't find any, don't worry, we won't keep it in the system, but we all know that's not going to be true.
Yeah, that's how that works with the government, right? Yeah. We all trust them. Yeah. Privacy breach.
So moving forward, Chad, we really need to focus on these movements and these lobbying groups like the CGC that are really moving this movement towards where it needs to go, so that people like us are not going to just be sideswiped by the government, and they're going to be able to issue in Big Brother. So tell people a little bit about the CGC and how they can get involved if they want to.
So yeah, you can just reach out to the Cannabis Growers of Canada. You can donate. We are trying to have some more sort of weekly meetings and trying to organize that. We've been all very busy in this industry, and it's really hard to organize everybody, so we haven't had that many meetings in the last little while, but we are trying to get some more regular meetings going on. So you can join in with that. If you have ideas, please email them to us. All donations are welcome. And, it's really about strength in numbers. And, you see that Cannabis Growers of Canada sticker on the side of somebody's dispensary. They have tested products. We have a Health Canada approved laboratory that we have our stuff tested through, where everybody's branded. They stand behind their products. You can contact any of the companies that we use, and they're gonna talk to you about their products and help you out. So, that's really what it is. It's about a bunch of people that really want to be in this industry. They want to be here for the people. We've been here for many, many years, and all we're trying to do is say, hey, listen, we're doing all of our lab testing. We've got everything, all of our ducks in the row. We're doing everything and then some that Health Canada or, the government could do. And we have actually the best medicinal products in the country that the patients actually want, instead of these other ones that the government is trying to force them to use.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you guys are doing it right, and that's more of what we need moving forward. And guys, it's crunch time. Like I said, this is coming down the road. October 17th is slated for legalization. So now is the time to get involved, guys. I strongly encourage you to check the links in the description to find out how you can get involved with the CGC and Chad Jacket at Liberty Farms. Once again, brother, thanks so much for talking to us. Any final thoughts on what's going on?
Thank you. Yeah, and I just want to say there's lots that we need to be doing, but we need to be doing it fast. So fundraising ideas are wonderful. I loved having events and all kinds of stuff, but sometimes you just actually have to just go, okay, let's figure out how to get this together quick and do it. I'm into doing all kinds of events. I still want to do all kinds of stuff like that. But again, we need to move. We need to move quickly. There's probably going to be some court challenges I see. Also, people have to think about their sovereignty. We're all sovereign. We're all sovereign individuals. The native communities right now are recognizing their sovereignty. And they're recognizing that the federal government is not really recognizing them in this whole thing right now and trying to get them to jump into jurisdiction that they don't want to jump into. So we all have to keep our eyes on all this stuff too. There's no difference between myself and any of these other people. We're all sovereign individuals. We're all sovereign nations. And just because there's a federal government out there that wants to try to force us to do all kinds of things, it doesn't mean that we should just do these things. And we have to use our heads and think and have one another's backs and help each other with the information. The Indigenous people in Canada have great knowledge on sovereignty and things that we can do to protect ourselves against the federal government. They've been fighting them for years and years. So I think there's a lot of knowledge base in those communities, and I would like to share mine, and I hope they'd be interested in sharing theirs too. So.
Well, the system of control is set up in a pyramidal structure with knowledge at the top and ignorance at the bottom. But there's more of us that make up the base of this thing, which is the most important thing to remember. And all it takes is for enough people to step outside of that system and say enough is enough, and the pyramid will come crashing down. So thanks again for joining us, Chad Jacket. Ladies and gentlemen, check the links into the description. libertyfarms.ca is the website.
Thanks again, Dan.